Some of the video effects you'll be using can make your movie look unreal or surreal, while others can create a fantasy world and make the fantasy world seem real. Others, like the Vegas color correction tools, are designed just to make the video you've shot look better, improve the color, or they fix mistakes in the way your camcorder interpreted a scene. Or you can manipulate the color of a scene to create a specific mood. Those are some of the things we want to do here with color correction. There are a number of color correcting tools built into Vegas Pro. Some of them are very high-level professional tools. A lot of people will use what they see in the monitor in their little preview here to decide how the color is corrected or if the color needs corrected. And if you've got a good eye for that and your monitor is well adjusted, that may be good enough. A lot of professionals prefer to use something called a vector scope. And a vector scope, you can see your vector scope if you go to the View menu. You can find it under Video Scopes. There's a vector scope. You can also switch the entire program here into sort of color correction mode by selecting that option from Windows layouts. There's a nice big vector scope for you. And a vector scope is basically a map of the frame that you have chosen. And that map shows you a cluster of all of the pixels in your picture and where they fit. And you can see that at the top we have red. This is a color wheel basically. Then we have yellow off to the left. And down at the bottom we have cyan, and off to the right we have blue. And you can see this particular frame kind of tends more toward blue and cyan. And my guess, it was probably shot that way, that the director decided to shoot during twilight, or maybe they used a filter on the camera, because this scene doesn't look like bad color. It looks like it was intentionally shot kind of bluish. But we can play with the color correction tools anyway and see what we can do with it. So our color correction tools can be found, some of them, under the Video Effects tab here in our tabbed interface. And there are a couple major color correctors. There's a primary color corrector right here. And we'll just adjust this and grab one of these and drag it onto the event on our timeline. You can see that we have 3 different color wheels. I'm going to switch over to custom view so you can see them side by side. And they represent both the low end, which is the darkest pixels in your scene, the mid-range, which are sort of your middle, your gray pixels, and then the high end, which is the higher end or the brightest colors that are in your particular scene. And by adjusting these, I usually start with mid-range. You can take some of the cast out of a scene, and I'm going to shift this less blue and more toward yellow. And you can see how it's changing the scene. I'm only adjusting the mid-range of the color, but look at the effect that it's having here on my vector scope map. Can you see how it's changing the entire map here? And then I adjust the low, move that over into yellow more, and then we'll adjust the higher range. And then I'm going to bring down the gamma. We'll bring up the gain to kind of give a little more vibrance to the picture, maybe increase saturation a little bit. And we may not have improved the picture or made it perfect, but we've certainly corrected some of the color here. And if you look at the map there in my vector scope, you can see that the map shows a much more evenly spread map of pixels. And we can look at here, if you look in the preview window, by disabling the effect, you can see the before and the after. Not necessarily an improvement, but certainly a color correction. And it's one of the ways to do a color correction. There are a couple of other ways to do it. Another simple way to do it, and one of my favorites, is to use the white balance. This is a fairly automatic way to adjust a scene. So I'm going to go to the next scene here, the next event on my timeline. We have a man standing in front of a board. And this is nice because the board, in my mind, should be white. So all I've got to do is figure out what adjustments I need to make that board white, and I'll have the scene color corrected. So I'm going to grab the white balance, and I'll just grab the default preset, drag it down onto the clip or onto the event on my timeline. And this, like I say, is a fairly automatic effect. In order to correct my color, all I need to do is click on the Select White Color button and use the eyedropper to select a pixel or to select an area of my picture that I think should be pure white, white, white. So I'm going to click right there. So now I have selected the board and said, make this white, white. And when it does, it automatically corrects all of the other colors in the image here. I'm just going to open back up the option panel so we can do a before and after comparison. Just disable the effect for a second. You can see very, very bluish, and it may well have been shot that way. They're trying to make this character look a little bit spooky, so I think they're shooting him in sort of a bluish tint. And you can see when we white balance it, it very, very much changes the mood of the scene. Finally, there are color matching templates, and I'm going to move my playhead now so that I'm on the final event here on my timeline. And let's go to color match. And I'm going to select from color match just the default, drag it onto that clip on the timeline, that event on the timeline. Now, color matching can be used, as you might guess, to match the color scheme or to match the color mood of another clip. You can do that simply by clicking on this option here and browsing to the clip that has already been color corrected out on your hard drive. So I can do it that way. I can cut and paste into this a scene that I'd like this to match the color scheme for, or I can simply choose from a number of presets. And these presets are up here in the drop-down menu at the top. And you can see I can create different moods depending on which preset I choose. So pastels, this is a little bit rich here, of course, but I can drag down the strength here and I can get sort of a pastel-y sort of Florida sunrise look. Or I can select inner city and get something a little more dead and a little more kind of haunting. I can select morning sunrise, very nice. Night sky to give it kind of a twilight sort of mood. Or South Pacific sunset. Let's decrease the strength on that a little bit. There's our South Pacific sunset. And finally, teal and orange to get us a real nice Miami Vice look, huh? So anyway, lots of cool things you can do with your color. You can correct it. You can add a mood with your color. Color correction and manipulation is an art, though. Some of the higher level tools like color curves and the color corrector can take years to master. But fortunately, as with most of the program's tools, there are simpler color correction tools and there are more advanced, more professional style tools. So basic color correction and manipulation is fairly simple. As you grow with the program or you need more professional tools, you'll find that it offers deeper and more powerful tools in its tool set also.